workers' compensation attorney here in Richmond, Virginia. Today I'm going to answer a question I recently received from an injured worker. Can I be fired for reporting a work injury? The short answer is easy. No, it's unlawful for an employer to fire you because you filed a workers' compensation claim or plan to. This video tells you what you really need to know, because the reality is much more complicated than that simple answer suggests. From the start, Virginia law specifically prohibits employers from firing you or otherwise retaliating against you for filing a workers' compensation claim or intending to. This protection is found in a statute within the Virginia Workers' Compensation Act, and it exists because lawmakers recognize that injured workers need to be able to seek benefits without fear of losing their jobs. It's in the public's interest to protect injured workers. But here's the thing. Just because something is illegal or unlawful doesn't mean employers won't do it. When you drive into work, there's a speed limit. But how many of us go faster than the speed limit? It's the same concept. Now back to workers' comp, employers have figured out a way to technically comply with the law while still making your life miserable or pushing you out the door. So let's break down the law itself, what retaliation looks like in the real world for injured employees, and what you can do to protect yourself. So as I said, the Virginia Workers' Compensation Act has a section that makes it unlawful for an employer to discharge an employee because they filed a workers' compensation claim, intend to file a claim, or even testified in a workers' comp proceeding for a coworker or someone else. That's the legalese. So what does it mean in plain English? Your employer can't fire you for reporting a work injury. Your employer can't demote you or reduce your pay or cut your hours because you filed a workers' comp claim. Your employer can't harass or intimidate you to discourage you from pursuing benefits by threatening termination or demotion. Your employer can't create a hostile work environment simply to punish you for filing a claim. Now this protection doesn't start when you file the claim itself. It actually starts before that. It starts when you report the work injury or when the employer or your supervisor actually has notice of the injury. So why is it so tricky? Well, Virginia is an at-will employment state. This means that your employer can fire you for almost any reason or no reason at all, as long as it's not an illegal or unlawful reason that violates public policy. They can fire you because they don't like your attitude. They can fire you because business is slow, or they think your position is redundant, or simply because they feel like it. That can even happen in an at-will employment state. So what happens in practice? Employers rarely come out and say, you're fired. And you're fired because you filed for workers' comp. That would be dumb. Some employers may be dumb, but not that dumb. And it would be easy to prove. Instead, what I see all the time is this scenario. You get hurt, you report the work injury, you file a claim, you hire an attorney. Suddenly, your employer starts documenting every little thing you do wrong. Oh, you're 30 seconds late. We're going to write you up. Oh, your attitude's poor. That's insubordination. We're going to write you up. And suddenly, within a few weeks or months, you're having performance issues or policy violations and receiving a performance improvement plan. So here's another common scenario. The employer claims your position was eliminated due to restructuring right after you filed your claim. Is that retaliation? Maybe. But proving it is the hard part. So how do we prove retaliation? If you believe you were fired in retaliation for filing a workers' comp claim, you have the burden of proof. And I'll be honest, that's not easy. Generally, you're going to need to show all of these things. You engaged in a protected activity, filing a claim, reporting a work injury, offering to testify in a workers' comp claim. Those are protected activities. Next, you need to show that your employer took adverse action against you. They fired you, demoted you, changed your hours, changed your shift, made you work far away, things like that. You need to show that there's a causal connection between these two things, meaning the workers' comp claim caused the termination. This is where cases are won or lost, and timing is important. If you're fired right after you report the injury, that's suspicious. You may have a claim. If you're fired 6 months, a year, 2 years after the work injury, with documented performance problems, it's going to be a little harder to prove. So how do you strengthen a retaliation case? First, close timing between the injury or the filing of the claim and the termination itself. Second, statements from supervisors or managers showing hostility about your claim. Third, track record of great performance before the injury, and then suddenly a bunch of documented performance issues after you got hurt. Next, different treatment compared to other employees who weren't injured. And then finally, any text, emails, or written witness statements that show a retaliatory motive. And a lot of times you can only get that through discovery. So what weakens your case? A long gap between the injury and termination. Legitimate documented performance issues that predated your injury or even postdate your injury. Your position was genuinely eliminated and other people lost their jobs too, including those that hadn't been overworked. Or the employer can show a legitimate non-retaliatory reason for the termination. All right, pros and cons, strengths and weaknesses of each. So what do you do if you get fired after reporting a work injury? Well, understanding your legal options is critical. First, you may have a wrongful termination claim under Virginia law. This type of claim is an employment law claim, and it typically is tried in civil court. Now, I don't handle much employment law. I focus on workers' comp and disability law. Workers' comp is your second option. Here's how a termination can affect your workers' comp case. Let's say you were receiving temporary partial disability benefits while working light duty for the pre-injury employer, and suddenly they fired you. Your benefits don't stop. You're still entitled to receive medical treatment for your work injury, and if you continue to have wage loss, either total or partial because you find a new job, you should continue receiving wage loss benefits under the award. Now where it gets messy is when the employer argues that you should not be able to receive any additional wage loss benefits because you were, quote, terminated for cause. Now whether you were terminated for cause is a legal question that the Virginia Workers' Compensation Commission would ultimately decide. All right, we're getting toward the end. Here's some red flags that suggest your employer might be building a case for termination against you. A sudden increase in scrutiny or supervision after your injury. Being written up for minor issues that were previously ignored. Maybe your boss let you come in 5 minutes late before the injury, and now suddenly it's a big problem. Hostile or cold behavior from supervisors who were previously friendly. It's a sign that there may be meetings that you're not a part of. Being given difficult tasks or being asked to perform work outside your medical work restrictions. It's a sign that your employer is trying to set you up to fail. Negative performance reviews that don't match your actual work. And comments from bosses or coworkers like, hey, we can't be having people getting hurt around here, or workers' comp claims cost us money. If you see these signs, start documenting everything immediately. consider consulting with an attorney before you get fired, not after. So back to the original question. Can you be fired for reporting a work injury or filing a claim? Legally, no. But practically, yes. And your employer will call it something else. The key is understanding your rights, documenting everything, and being strategic about how you handle the situation. You may have not only the right to additional workers' comp benefits, but also the right to compensation and damages through an employment law firm. And I hope this video was helpful. If you have any questions about workers' comp in Virginia, call me at 804-251-1620. Or if you're looking for additional information, visit my website at cpollardlaw.com. Finally, don't forget